You don't know. I see your Instagram and I see you in a brand new Cybertruck. I don't know if you're upside down and owe $6,000 a month on that Cybertruck.
Right.
I don't know if that brand new Tesla that you got. I don't know your story behind that.
Right.
But on Instagram, what it looks like is, man, she's rocking the new car. Look at her hair. Look at that new Tesla. Yep. Oh my gosh! You don't know inside if she is drowning in debt.
Right.
It can be easy to see everyone's highlight reel.
Exactly.
And what are you seeing? Everyone's highlight reel. So it starts to tell you, it's like, no, you need that car.
Yep.
You need to go have that.
I want to keep up. Yeah.
And my chapter is different from your chapter.
Sure.
You know, what someone, I might be in chapter 17 of my financial picture.
Right.
And you're in chapter 2.
Hello and welcome to the Girls Podcast. Joining me today is one of my dear friends, Alan Graham. Alan, welcome to the Girls Podcast.
So honored to be here.
It's so fun having a guy. You're the only second guy that's been on this podcast. Earl McClellan.
Wow.
My hubby the first. You're the only one. Second one.
Man.
Making history.
That's rare company right there.
It is rare.
So honored to be here.
It's so fun to get to have one of our dear friends on the sofa talking, growing, and connecting. As you know, and you guys might not know this, but Alan and Summer Graham are two of our favorite people on the planet, key leaders in this church, such a strength, pillars. Your name is written in the wet cement of this church. If I had like $1 for every couple that you guys have poured into, mentored, spoken life over, I'd be a billionaire. We're so thankful for your investment into this house and for your investment into so many lives. You guys just exude generosity, kindness, grace, anointing. And even though you both are just like, you're the it couple, you have a beautiful family, and you have it all, you also give it all, which is what makes it so beautiful. And I feel like y'all's cup keeps running over and over and over because you guys never stop seeing people seeking Jesus and giving away all that God has trusted you with. And
well,
so
thank you.
That's my introduction.
As a words of affirmation man, my cup is very full right now.
Awesome.
So we love you, and obviously Pastor Earl, and it's just such an honor. It's an honor to be here, to be in the soil, to help really be gardeners and sow into this place. So
it's been powerful.
We love it, and we're just so happy to be here. I'm honored to be here on this couch. So.
I remember when we first met y'all, our church was in this building we refer to as Town North. Mm-hmm. And that building sat about 200 to 300 people maybe. And I remember meeting you guys in the lobby, and right away I gave your wife my phone number. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that all the time just because I'm just one girl and I have a family and a husband, so I can't give my phone number away all the time. Mm-hmm. But it was just automatic. As soon as I met her, I was like, I need to know you. I want to be friends. And then I remember the first time we went out to dinner, you guys were getting ready to go on I think it was a baby moon maybe.
It was.
To Bali.
Yeah.
And it just was an instant connection. Yeah. And how many years ago was that?
Man, we've been a part of Shoreline for 10 years. That was probably 9 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Also, something of fun fact is I remember when we moved into our building after Town North, we then called that one White Rock. Yep. And I remember, I'll never forget this day. We were in this room that we used to call the studio, and it was me, you, Earl, and Ron Brown. And for those of you who don't know Ron Brown, he's like the grandpa, father of this church.
The big teddy bear.
Yes, exactly. So wise, but also just he and Judy are guardian angels. And I remember you guys pulled Earl aside and said, because at that time, that particular location sat 800 people, and it was very comfortable, and we felt like, okay, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Like God, you've been so faithful. Yeah. We were in a movie theater, then we moved to Town North, and then to White Rock, and we thought that we were done. And I'll never forget, you kind of low-key cornered us, and you basically said, like, Earl, I think that your dream is not God's dream for Shoreline City. God's dream for Shoreline City is there's more people that he wants to touch and reach. And you said this building is too small for us.
That interaction
core memory
is a core memory of our relationship. Yeah. I remember him looking at me like I was crazy.
Yep.
But I remember having that conversation, and I went over to Ron. I was like, hey, I'm going to go up to PE and I'm going to drop this on him. This is what I'm feeling. And I know we've had conversations about this. So I need you to be my sidekick, my wingman right now.
Yes.
So yeah, just having that conversation and know that God put it on my heart. It was like, no, we need, there are more lost sons and daughters out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were doing 4 or 5 services at the
Yes.
time at White Rock. And,
Yes.
But yeah, that conversation, very
never forget
impactful conversation. And look at God now.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think Earl, his biggest concern was he didn't want to be like another big church
Yeah.
because his heart has always been like, I want to grow people. But I think that conversation, so you need trusted men in your life who you trust to speak into your life and to speak into your future. And dare I say, prophesy. And I feel like that was a prophetic conversation because I think about all the people we now all know.
Oh, for sure.
And that conversation was so pivotal in the future and the history of the church.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted the girls to just, the ones that don't know you, because we have girls that are part of Shoreline City that listen to this podcast, but we also have girls from all over the world.
Yeah.
And so for them to just have context of who I'm across from. And for those that do know you and know your lovely wife and family, you guys, like I said earlier, are just like, you're just like it. You're like an it couple, super successful, and God has just continued to bless you. And I wanted to have a conversation today with you that I'm calling Girl Math.
Ooh, love this.
And Girl Math is, I find something on sale and I say to Earl, I've saved us money. And I actually made our family money by making this purchase. That's Girl Math. And you and your wife, as you coach marriages in this church, so many couples, have the privilege of sitting across from y'all. And you have just spoken into the finances of so many people. And then you're also our stewardship director over giving, and just helping steward generosity in our church and reminding and coaching and equipping people on the power of being generous. But I think a myth, before we go into some of the questions that the girls have asked, I think a myth that people believe is, well, I look at you in Summer, you guys have everything, you guys are so successful. It's easy for you to talk about being generous. It's easy for you to talk about wealth because you guys have it all. But what people might not know is you have a story and you didn't grow up like you weren't like a trust fund child with a silver spoon in your mouth. They see your life now and they think it was always that way. So if you could share a little bit of your story, because I think when someone I feel like you have an anointing, you and Summer, on finances and on generosity and how do you not just accumulate wealth, but also be a good steward of the resources that God has given you, no matter the season, from hundreds to thousands to millions. But it didn't always look like that for you. And so can you tell a little bit of your story so girls have context and they also can be inspired?
Yes. Again, thank you to you and your husband just for having this podcast and really reaching out because this it's important. I grew up very poor. I did not have a family that spoke about finances. It was an argument. It was, to give you a context, I went to 7 different elementary schools because we moved away from creditors.
Wow.
We had more month than money. My father worked 4 jobs and never saw him.
Wow.
And so it was different. We did not have anything. And so when I started growing up and I when it came to like I had needs, we needed school supplies or clothes or whatever, it was basically like, go get a job. And so I started working at 14, started providing for myself. And when I started making my own money, and I left the house pretty early and got into school and started providing for myself. And when I started making money, I white-knuckled that money.
Which I think a lot of people do when they grow up without, and then they get blessed with something, then they become like hoarders and almost like stingy.
Yeah. And so that was a situation where like I knew, I was 17, 18, 19. I was like, I don't want to end up like my parents.
Wow.
And so I took a personal finance class in college, and it's interesting that the society and school does not teach you financial education, financial any sort of financial IQ, And the acumen that I was able to take from this one professor who saw something in me, he was like, "Hey, what's the first thing that happens when you go to a college campus? It's like, hey, credit card.
Student loans and
Yeah,
loans.
student
they
loans
hand
and credit
them out to you
cards.
like candy.
Nothing. Like,
Yeah.
and so I made that mistake. I got on college campus, and again, it wasn't for pizza and Cokes and those types of things.
Right.
It was like, oh, I've got to pay bills. I've got to buy a book.
Right.
Those types of
Right.
things. So I did assume a little bit of debt, but I knew it was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was 33% interest at that point in time.
Wow.
So I know I didn't want to live the life that my parents, lived. And so I took it on myself to just go on this personal finance journey and discovery. And like I said, I was working and supporting myself through school and was earning money, but it was like, oh, white knuckle, white knuckle,
Right.
white knuckle.
Right.
So for me, it was what's in my savings account identifies me as a son of God. Like
Wow.
what I'm making in the marketplace, I'm successful.
Wow.
Fast forward, I met my wife and we got married. And share a little bit about our testimony.
Yes.
We started a business. We were in the marketplace. We were
Right.
making money. We were doing great. Generosity was never a question.
Right.
So that was a pillar of ours. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the LDS church, and it was basically a works based to where if you didn't tithe,
Got it.
you were going to hell.
Wow.
And so out of obligation, it was like, nope, got to tithe, so I'm not going to hell.
Okay.
And
Check that box.
here we go. I can take the other 90% here.
Yes.
My wife, a little bit of the same story, did not grow up in a financially sound household.
Right.
And so it was spend, put it on credit cards. Oh, our kids have Valentine's Day. They need the big Valentine's extravaganza,
Yeah.
and we'll put that on a credit card. We'll worry about that later. So what my wife knew was spending. Spend. So coming together, we had to kind of combine those ideas, but generosity was always a part of it. And I will say we would not be as successful as we are today if the heart of generosity wasn't paramount. Number one, this is a pillar.
Wow.
But fast forward in 2017, 18, we took on a home project.
Yes.
And we were that horror store that everybody hears about. It's like we had a few contractors that stole 6-figure plus from us, took our money and ran. And it was a hard time. We were paying 2 mortgages at a time. We were bringing in Gemma. She was a 1-year-old at the time, our wonderful daughter. And when we started this house project, getting pregnant or having a child wasn't even in the realm.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, we're in this home that has exposed walls and wires and no toilets, and we had all this savings and all this buildup and whatnot, and now we are gonna have to file bankruptcy. Like, we don't know how we're gonna do this anymore.
Wow.
And it was another time in my life where God showed up and it put me on my knees of like, God, I need you at this point. I need the cross at this point.
Wow.
Like, so it was restored and everything.
Yes.
Everything was made whole. But generosity, tithing, giving didn't leave.
Wow.
That was something that was like, okay, we don't know how we're going to put toilets in, but we just got money in. We're going to need to tithe off of that. And through our faithfulness, God made things whole.
Wow.
And it's an incredible story, and just one that if it hadn't been for that moment, I don't know if I would have released the idol of money fully.
Whoa.
Because it was like, no, I'm generous.
Right.
But now I'm doing it with a heart posture of giving, not out of obligation because I want to.
Right.
But the other 90%,
Yes.
I'm going to hold on to.
Right.
But this was the moment where God showed up and was like, no. I'm asking you to steward all of it.
Wow.
And at that moment, when I was finally able to release it, that's when our business exploded.
Wow.
That's when our generosity exploded. That's when we would have deals come in and it was like, I don't even know
how this even happened.
But this was a moment where we started praying over our giving. Oh yeah. And it took all the pressure, all the anxiety, and all of the, just the negative thoughts I had about income and about like, I don't want to be my parents' story.
Right.
That was removed from the equation. And it was really that last moment, that last bit where I was like, no, God, I am surrendering everything. Like there is nothing left in my life. You have my family, you have my spirit, you have my just personal relation, you have everything, and you have all of my finances.
Wow.
So I sit here now as just a testimony of like, God can do amazing things in and through us.
Right.
And where we think, finances can be that idol or kind of be that subject matter of like, hey, no, I've earned this. And no. God's given you this opportunity. God's given you these skill sets. God's given you this employment. God's given you this business. And if you'll keep him at the center of that, he will make it rain, for lack of a better term. So
this is gold. This is pure gold. I could write a curriculum off of just this conversation. What would you say, and then we're going to jump into some of the questions, for the person who's listening who thinks I can't afford to be generous, or I'm skeptical about living a life of generosity, but they want to grow financially? Can you speak to that lie a little bit?
Sure. I do think that the Bible is very clear.
Yeah, talk about it.
And in Malachi 3:10, it's the only area in the entire Bible where God says, test me.
Wow.
And, having the honor to speak to the one, couples and to talk finances here at Shoreline, I can share with you testimony after testimony after testimony. I had two this week, actually. I had a gentleman who we've been talking about paying off debt for a long time, snowballing and whatnot. And I've been challenging him. I was like, hey, just start with a tithe.
Wow.
Start get on the giving ladder of some point.
Yes.
And he called me yesterday. So we had a discussion on Monday, and he was like, hey, I gave for the first time.
Wow.
And that text came in on Monday. On Wednesday, he called me, and he got a promotion at his work. And again, sound guy,
right,
financial IQ out the roof. But he was like, I don't know,
right.
And so it took that challenge, because there's that big myth that the church just wants my money. The church just wants my money, and it's like, no. God doesn't need your money.
Exactly.
God wants your heart.
Say it.
And that challenge of, again, he challenges us in Malachi. It's like, no, test me in this.
Right.
And I would say that you can be your level of financial IQ, your what you've been given to steward it'll be like a brush fire that's just got gasoline poured all over it. It will take off once that heart of generosity goes first.
Yes.
Not, no, I'm going to be generous with what's left. Having that faith posture to step out and say, no, I'm going to be generous first because I know God has me.
So good.
And you can't outgive God.
Yep.
You can't.
Nope.
I don't know. I can't speak to anyone that's ever come back to me and says, I regret giving.
Right.
I regret giving someone a Christmas gift.
Say it.
I regret being part of a meal train. I regret giving to Heaven to Earth. I regret, going to an H2E Saturday and giving my time or my skill. I have never.
Wow.
But I will say this. I've had people say, man, I wish I would have been more generous.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I would have been in the position to help people go to summer camp.
Right.
Have those conversations all the time. So.
Wow. Gold, pure gold. You're crushing it. Okay, we're going to jump into, we've laid our foundation. Now we're going to dive a little deeper into some of the questions that the girls have asked.
I love girl math questions.
Girls want to know. We want to know the girl math. Okay, so I'm just going to pepper away and we'll just go for it. Okay, let's start with the one about this one. How can husbands and wives collaborate on budget when one loves to spend and one loves to save? I asked that question. I didn't, but I am asking.
This is actually probably the question that we get the most.
Yeah.
And typically when you have couples that get together, one of them's a spender and then one of them's, the Excel spreadsheet nerd like myself. And so it's a different, it's a dichotomy that actually needs to be communicated first. Because my wife when she was in college and she was in school, this was the budget. okay, at the first of the month, I'm going to pay all my bills.
Okay.
Okay. And then I'm going to set aside $50 for groceries for the rest of the month.
Okay.
And then I'm going to spend everything else.
The rest.
And she was in the service industry, so it was cash heavy. She's getting cash all the time. She was like, nope, I just did a shift. I'm going to Nordstrom. I'm buying whatever.
Right.
So, and if I get hungry or if I don't have anything in the rest of the month, I'm going to go on a date, and that's how
food's covered.
Food's covered.
But I got the great outfit.
But I've got the outfit, and that hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
She's still a spender.
Right.
Vice versa. Again, a little bit of my backstory. It's like, no. How much can I save this month?
Wow.
Okay. What can I do to make sure that our nest egg or my nest egg is increasing?
Yes. Earl's that way too.
So it's just different, and it's like oil and water.
Yeah.
But coming together, it very practically, what we find is that most people don't have a combined budget.
Sure.
So the first practice is just making sure that you understand what's coming in and what's going out.
Yep.
If you're at a point where you're the spender and you're going to the mall and you're buying the shoes and you're doing the things and you're getting a nice outfit or whatnot, but we can't pay our bills at the end of the month,
that's a problem.
That's a conversation that we need to have.
Right.
But coming together and working on that combined budget, then understanding if I'm the saver, I love my wife.
Yes.
I want to provide everything. I want to say yes to everything. So it's responsible for me to make sure that I have line items in the budget for summer.
Love it.
Personal care.
Yep. We love personal care.
Hair, makeup,
yes.
face, all the things. That's a line item.
That's so good. Yes.
And that's a non-negotiable line item.
The girls are saying amen. Alex.
Yeah.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we want the ladies, we want you to look amazing.
Yes,
we want you to feel good.
Yes,
we want you to do all the things.
Yes.
And then shopping.
Yep.
That's part of it. But it's not like, okay, that's not going to take priority over our mortgage.
Right.
But I know that there's a line item that needs to happen so that Summer has a budget for what she can spend.
Right.
The big key on that is understanding, guys, or if it's vice versa, because I know some guys that have some mad shoe games that spend a whole lot of money on hats and shoes.
Yeah.
And so for me, I know the budget that I give Summer during the month.
Right.
I can't complain one iota what she spends that on.
Sure.
If that's one sweatshirt, great. If that's 6 or 7 tops, great.
Yeah.
But there's no judgment when it comes to that because that's the line item.
Right.
But the budget allows you
yes.
permission to spend. And that's the big key.
What about like the wife who is juggling a lot and you're in the moment and you're like, Easter's coming up. I need to get all these things for my family. Or just hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically.
I
never
don't know
happens.
this person. Never happens. But they're like, Easter's coming up. I have a window. I don't have time to have a budget meeting.
Yeah.
I just have this window to bust out outfits for the whole family and to get a place setting for Easter and possibly new dishes for Easter, just maybe.
Are you talking to Summer? What is this? Is this a mirror? Or are we talking to Summer? Because this is a typical conversation. Yeah.
So then sometimes there can be tension because the spouse can feel, the wife, for me, in my case, sometimes I'll just put my business out there.
Yeah.
I feel like I only have so much time in a day. And so I don't always have time to have a budget conversation to like get stuff done for our family. So sometimes I can believe the lie, like, Earl, keep the fuel in the jet so this mama can fly. Figuratively speaking, I don't have a jet, obviously. But does that make sense?
No,
Because sometimes it feels like I don't have time to have a long, like, budget meetings take forever.
Well, it's at first,
yes,
budget meetings do take forever.
Yes.
Getting on the same page as far as what the direction is, what God has for our family, what direction are we going, how much do we want to give, what do our fixed expenses look like. But it's kind of one of those things that it'll come ebbs and flows.
Right. Okay.
To where I know when our business is booming and things are crazy and we got holidays coming up and the kids are, May is a terrible month because
crazy. Yes.
Kids getting out of school early this time and we said we weren't going to eat out, but what are we doing?
Exactly.
And so it's not like, let's stop, let's have a budget meeting, here we go. It's more of a flow.
I like that.
To where I know Easter's coming up, and in the back of my brain, I'm like, okay, I know that I need to put a little bit more of a buffer in our budget because I
like that.
I know Summer is
Yep,
going to
yep.
buy new outfits,
Yep.
new Easter baskets,
Yep,
wants all the things.
All the things, yeah,
because
yeah.
that's the way she grew up and the way
Right.
that we like to
moments.
Yeah, y'all love a moment.
We do.
And
Yep.
and it's great. And I've had to come to that.
That's I like that.
Where I used to be like, excuse me?
Yep. Yes.
Like St. Patrick's Day. We're not Irish, but we're still celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
You know, just the
No,
thing.
that's real. Yeah.
And
I love that.
But that's important to Summer.
Yes.
So if we do go over budget, there might be a conversation of like, hey, you went over
Slow
budget.
down. Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
However, we can't shop as much with your personal shopping.
I like that.
Or we can't eat out as much. We can't say yes to this
I love it.
because you did go over, which is fine.
Right.
Because it was important to you. Now, you can't do that on every line item.
Right.
But in that season of like, oh, it's bam, 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 bam. No, Easter's coming up. Oh, we forgot about that. Here we go.
Yes.
Then that would probably need to have a conversation.
Yep.
And not in a Oneka,
Judgmental. Right.
how and why and
Right,
how
right.
dare you?
Yes, that breeds
The budget
tension.
was $200 and you did $220. I mean,
right.
that's not healthy.
Yep.
But there might have to be like, we went a little over budget.
Yes.
Or we had a bad month.
Right.
So next month we're going to shore up this, and this in a
Love
very
it.
loving way.
I love that. I think language for anyone,
language, tone,
to one another is
timing.
Timing.
Oh, timing is
Major
everything.
key.
Like your spouse has a 16-hour day, and then it's like at the end of it, she walks in the door, and you're like, "Hey, time for the budget meeting." That's probably not going to go well. So
Right.
timing and temperature is everything.
These are some good handles.
So-
Timing, tone,
And temperature.
and temperature. I love that. And I love how you said leaning in, saying like, I noticed that this happened. Let's talk about what next month could look like instead of just like popping off.
Oh, for
This
sure.
is so good. No matter the side that you're on, the spender or the saver. Okay, I'm loving this. Okay, here's some more. I'm just going to pop some out. How should I be using a credit card in a way that benefits me rather than hindering my financial goals?
Great question. I would say that if you have debt
Okay.
or you're in a debt payoff season,
Okay.
I would not recommend using credit
So
cards.
good.
I would personally only recommend using credit cards when you have the ability to pay that credit card off every month.
Yep.
And JP Morgan Chase, they're no fools. Okay.
They know what they're
some
doing.
of the nicest buildings and the nicest
Right.
real estate in the nicest cities all around the world.
Wow.
How did they get that? By you and I being late
Yep.
on a credit card payment.
Wow.
By the 22 to 34% interest that they're charging on that lunch that you had that now I thought only cost me $13, but now it cost me $20 because I didn't pay it off in that month.
Wow.
So now, if you have a budget and you're savvy and you're able to pay off that, I love me some points.
Okay.
I love
Same.
travel points.
I
Travel
love
points are
points.
great.
Same. It's
But
a hack of ours.
If I cannot pay that credit card off, there is no amount of points that they will give me that will outpace the interest that I'm
You better
charging.
preach.
So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, gold. This is pure gold. Okay, I'll get to some more because I know we're going to run out of time soon. Okay, I'm dreaming of moving out of my parents' house, but don't know what a good savings number looks like, and I'm nervous about new responsibility. How much should I have stored away before I leap?
That's a question.
I know. Basically, like, what should I be thinking about before I move out of my parents' house financially?
Yeah. In that scenario, I would assume, and I'm just going to throw this assumption out there, that parents are probably providing for your insurance and your cell phone
the
right
things,
now
yes.
and all of the things. I would take baby steps first
Yep.
and take some of that responsibility back. Be
Love
like,
it.
hey, mom, dad, I'm going to pay for my insurance the next couple of months.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to pay for my cell phone bill. Moving out, getting into an apartment, getting into a rental home, you're going to need first month's rent and the same amount in a deposit.
Wow.
So in Dallas, if you get a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or an apartment or whatnot, you're probably going to need about $5,000 to put down.
That's wild. Yeah.
Just to have the
Secure.
ability to rent. So that's an easy number, but I would say start the practice of like, okay, I'm going to start weaning myself off of
I
mom
like
and
that.
dad. And then I would say having 3 months worth of expenses. Like if your cost of living,
So good.
if you have like a 1,500 month rent or mortgage, and then a car payment and those types of things, take your needs budget, and then have 3 months of that built up.
Beautiful.
And then you can make that move.
Wise. Okay, here's another one. The girls did good. Girl math, here we go. What is something worth splurging on? A car, a house, etc. Is there something that you recommend going higher end for? So it's like 2 questions in one.
Yeah. No, great question. I would, for our family,
Right.
we like to travel.
Yes.
We work hard.
And play hard.
We work very hard, and we enjoy working hard.
Yes.
But when we travel,
You travel well.
we travel well.
Yes.
So that's. But I would push this back on what's important to you.
So good.
Travel for our family is important.
Right.
That is something that. So I want to stay at a nice hotel.
Yes.
I need a robe and some slippers and a spa. Just being real.
You're like, that's on the list.
If it doesn't have it,
you're like, I'm not
if there's
staying.
not 24-hour room service,
Then it's not gonna
I don't know
work.
if I could stay there.
Right. No,
But that's important
No,
to us.
yes,
You know,
yes,
I would rather not shop and
Yeah.
not go out to eat,
right.
so that when I do vacation,
You can do it right.
I can do it right.
Yep.
So for us, and just the experiences that you can have,
Yeah.
and international travel. I mean, vacation is one of those things that's what we believe in.
Right.
I will say, just very practically, shoes I think are one of those that. The difference between a well-made pair of shoes
Right.
and ones that are not well-made.
Sure.
If I'm having to buy
5
4 or
pairs.
5
Yep.
of this brand of shoe because they cost $20 to $40, but
Right.
if I got a really nice, well-made pair of shoes,
Yes.
I think that's worth. But you have to find out what's important to you.
Right.
Because again, I could say no. I could not walk into another mall for the rest of my life, wear the same tops,
Yep.
and be perfectly content.
Right.
Okay, summer is not that way. Okay,
Right.
So, but for her, she would rather spend a little bit more to have staples
Exactly. That you can wear.
that you can
bunch of
wear
different- Yep.
a bunch of different times. With
Yep.
you know, and that's that I would say for her would be important. The car,
Because you hear all these things about cars, that they depreciate the moment you drive them off the lot. Should you lease? Should you buy? Should you lease if you're going to want a new one all the time?
100%.
It's confusing sometimes.
cars do depreciate.
Yeah.
You cannot sell the car back once you drive it off the lot. You can't go back to the dealership and be like, "Give me my refund."
Right.
You lose 20 to 30%. However, a car is a necessity in where we live.
Yes.
So, I am a firm believer that A to B, it gets me from point A to point B and back. I like driving a paid off car. But one big thing for our household is that we won't have more than one car payment.
Got it. That's a great.
I drive the hand-me-down.
Okay.
Summer will always get the new car,
yeah.
but she'll hand me down the old one when that's paid off.
Yep.
Because the cars aren't designed to last forever. They
Right.
they break, they need maintenance and those types of things. Housing is an asset. Real estate is an asset that can build your financial future.
Yes.
But I would say the car, we need to be okay with. If it's a little less of a car, I'm okay with that. I don't need the brand new Tesla.
Right. At the top of the line.
And again, big thing on that, and this is a nugget that I think needs to be said, is like quit the comparison game.
I think you should talk about that.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up with everyone.
I mean,
and keep up with your friends. Yeah.
You don't know. I see your Instagram and I see you in a brand new Cybertruck.
Sure.
I don't know if you're upside down and owe $6,000 a month on that Cybertruck.
Right.
I don't know if that brand new Tesla that you got. I don't know your story behind that.
Right.
But on Instagram, what it looks like is, man,
You're successful,
girls rocking the new car. Look at her
Right.
hair. Look at that
Yes.
new Tesla.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! You don't know inside if she is drowning in debt.
Right.
Because again, as we all know, that it can be easy to see everyone's highlight reel.
Exactly.
And what are you seeing? Everyone's highlight reel. So it starts to tell you, it's like, no, you need that car.
Yep.
You need
up.
to
I
go
want to
have
keep
that.
up. Yeah.
And my chapter is different from your chapter.
Sure.
You know, what someone, I might be in chapter 17 of my financial picture.
Right.
And you're in chapter 2.
So don't
You're just out of
compare
college.
chapter 2 to chapter 17. That's gold.
That's not the story yet.
Right.
You don't know the trenches that I've been in, the almost bankruptcy that I've been in, the countless hours staying up, building a business and not sleeping, the journey that I've had, the continuing education that I've invested in myself, the willingness to say no so that I can have what I have now. But it's easy to be like, no, I should have that.
Yep.
And so getting away from that and run your own race, I mean, that's the biggest thing.
That is gold. I want to ask you one last question. I could even end on that one because that was pure gold. I want to ask you one last bonus question. Okay, some girls are ready to like get additional property. So like they already own a house, but they're thinking, should I like buy a house and flip it? Or should I like buy a house and have somebody rent it? Should I start with a condo? Somebody wants to do their first investment. What would you suggest? But they're new at it. They're not like a millionaire person. They're just like a regular girl trying to like increase her wealth. What should she do?
Love this question. And so I'm looking at like if Gemma asked me, hey, Dad, where do I start?
Exactly.
And I'd be like, tears, this is everything.
She's like, I've saved up all my Girl Scout cookie money and I'm ready, Dad. What do I do?
Entrepreneur is ready.
Yes.
The biggest thing that I would recommend is you don't have to have this exorbitant amount of money down in order to own a home.
Got it.
So, first and foremost, getting with a competent realtor or lender is a big first step because they are the professionals that are going to guide you through that.
Right.
But I would say that if you could get to a point to buy a home and then have roommates that live with you that help pay down the mortgage.
Right.
And then do that for 2 or 3 years.
So good.
And then taking that cash flow that you're getting from that and setting it aside as the down payment on the next property.
Love it.
And then you move out of property 1 into property 2, rinse and repeat, and then put another tenant inside that first property. Easy way, while you're single, before you're married, because there are different, as a first-time homebuyer, there are a lot of incentives, and you don't need 20% down. You don't need 25% down. Now, once you get into property 2, 3, and 4, yes, you're going to need more money down.
Right.
But that first property, house hacking is something that I would recommend. So, like for Gemma, an idea is like, okay, Gemma, you're going to go to school. Where do you want to go? You want to go to Alabama? Do you want to go? Do you want to go to TCU? Do you want to go? Are we going to Harvard? All the things. It's like, hey, let's go put 5% down on a home in that college town. Go get you some roommates. We have your housing, and then at the end of your school, we can sell that. And here we go. There's your wedding money.
Right.
So,
right. Boom, done. Yes.
So,
yes.
But that's what I would recommend. I would recommend if there's the girls out there is like, hey, I want to get into home ownership.
Exactly.
What does this look like? It's like, no, you can get out there, but have that idea of like, I'm going to bring roommates along.
I love that.
And help, help pay that down. So
love it. You're making us all better. And we're girl mathing our girl math, but with godly principles.
Yes.
Thank you for this conversation. In the future, we have to have a part 2 because I have more questions I want to get to, but even this conversation, transformative. Thank you, Alan Graham. And thank you, girls, for joining us. We pray that this encouraged you and strengthened you and cannot wait to see what's on the other side of this conversation. Love you.